Hello, Earth Angels, and welcome back to another episode of Alignment Academy. If you're new here, welcome. I'm your host, Kristen, and every single week we talk about fulfillment, spirituality, mindset, healing, entrepreneurship. I really blend all of them because I believe that the journey to becoming and fulfilling your soul's purpose is a spiritual journey. It's like the more you grow, the more fulfillment you're going to have, the more your business is going to grow, all that stuff. So we really dive into topics that I'm really passionate about, that I feel like are relevant in your soul's evolution. And yeah, there's tons of topics on here. So I hope you enjoy, binge the podcast. And if you're new here, start at episode 1 because you'll get to hear the entirety of my soul's journey. I'm a little nervous for this episode. To be completely transparent and completely honest, this is a topic that I've been avoiding for a really long time because I think there was just a lot of pain there still. And I know that when there's a lot of pain for me, there's a lot of collective pain. And I also know that you probably really need this episode, especially if it's been such a thing in my life. The way that my soul works is I know I go through things so I can transmute them and teach them. I do that all the time. I know when I'm going through something, I'm like, I'm here to master this thing. I'm mastering this so I can teach others how to master it too. And so I think holding that higher perspective is so helpful. And I want you to adopt that higher perspective for you because it is scientifically proven when you assign meaning or, look at something as a challenge versus a problem, it actually changes the cells and the biology in your body. And I did learn that from the Dispenza Retreat. I don't know if you guys saw, but I went to my second Dispenza Retreat last weekend. My life is it really is living by the edge of my seat, and I never know where life is going to take me or what I'm going to do. But last week I went to the Source premiere, which is Joe Dispenza's new documentary. And then he had a advanced follow-up retreat in San Diego, which I did not have a ticket to, but I just felt something in my soul calling me to be like, I think that you need to be there. And so I actually walked in and attempted to get a ticket, and I did. So it was a beautiful experience. I'm still processing a lot of the things that occurred and happened and went down. I don't really feel the call to share in depth like a recap like I did the first one. It was not like it was more of the same, but the lessons were really, really personal. And I was talking to my friend the other day. I was like, my journey is for me before it's for anyone else. Like, obviously I share so much of my life online and on my podcast, but there's some things when you're working through it yourself, you don't need to share it yet. And so there's some things that arose that I'm like, you know what, this is just for me. So I'm going to just leave you guys at, it was really amazing. I went inward and overcame so many parts of myself. I changed a lot of boxes. I feel like I'm living in a new reality now, and I'm really grateful for just the experience of going. But today is not about any of that. Today is about healing the friendship wound. Friendships, man. They are our biggest teachers here on earth. And again, I told you guys I was a little nervous because I feel so much responsibility in this topic because number one, there's not a lot of information on friendships out in the world. And it's really hard. It's really, really hard when friendships end, when friendships shift, how to navigate friendships. There's just, there's not a lot of resources on it. We have so many resources on relationships and love and family dynamics, but there's not a lot of stuff on friendships. And especially for us spiritual girlies who are in a constant cycle of death and rebirth, it's like, how do we navigate this? You know what I mean? It's like, how do we come to terms with the fact that as parts of us die, the people that were attached to those parts are going to die with us. So I'm going to just get into it. I'm going to speak from my heart, and we're just going to see where this goes. If you're navigating a friendship breakup or a friendship wound, I first just want to blast some love into your heart and let you know that you're not alone. I have navigated, honestly, there was a little shadow around how many friendships I've lost in my past. But you guys have to understand, I have been growing at the speed of light since I was 17 years old. And there have been so many new versions of me. And the friends that I attract at this phase are so different than the friends I was attracting even 5 years ago. And that's not like a good or bad thing. It's just a different frequency. We're doing different things. I have a different mindset. I value different things, right? And so it's like, it's okay to shed friendships. And I think that we have to really normalize this process. Before we get into like how to navigate them, I just want to talk about what the friendship wound is, because this is a term that I did coin a couple years ago because I was dealing with it and there wasn't really a name for it. But it's similar to like the father and the mother wound. I think it's related to trauma. And when you had a friend or a friendship dynamic that really hurt you, now you have trauma around friendships. And it's like you replay this trauma over and over and over again until you heal it, right? That's similar to like the father wound, where if you had trauma around a dad or even a mother wound, had trauma around your mom, you will likely replay that trauma out in different dynamics until you choose to heal it. Now, I really want to reframe the way you look at relationships, because this is so cliche in the spiritual world, but it's really true. You have to start reframing all of your relationships as just teachers and things that help you evolve your soul. When I was really channeling like what to put into this episode, my guides were really showing me that there's several tools on earth to help our souls evolve, right? Like a tool is money that helps our souls evolve and learn a lot of lessons. Another tool is relationships. Another tool is businesses. Another tool is your career. Like these are all like circumstances in your video game that are going to help you navigate things and get to the next level. So really look at your relationships as teachers and nothing more than that. You also have to realize that relationships are ever changing. I really struggled with this because I don't know where I picked this up, but somewhere along the way, I learned that relationships are supposed to be forever. Romantic relationships, friendships, you see these friends that have been friends since second grade and you're like, oh, like I want that. Is that what's normal? But the truth is there's not really a normal in the length of a relationship. I think it's just societal construct. And so for me, I felt there was something wrong with me when I was shedding all these friendships. But the truth is that there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you if you shed people or you decide to end friendships. It's just like you're going this way and I'm going that way. And it can just be that. I had this really sobering thought while I was going through my relationship ending last year, my romantic relationship ending, that really just like put a knife in my heart, but also it was a sobering thought that is the truth. And the truth is that every relationship that you have will end either in death or in a breakup. There's no other option for it. And when you realize this, you can loosen the grip on your attachment to your relationships. And so, of course, we all want every relationship in our life to last a lifetime. But the reality is relationships are temporary. Everything is temporary on this physical plane. The only thing that's not temporary is your relationship to the source. And I will share this from the Dispenza Retreat. As I open my heart up, I can see myself wanting to close it sometimes. And I struggle because I'm like, well, if I open my heart again, there's a potential that it's going to get hurt. I'm going to hurt my heart and I'm going to have to go through another breakup or a heartbreak. And I don't really want to do that because I just healed and I feel so freaking good and I don't want to hurt anymore. I just don't want to. And so I'm dealing with this in my meditation at the meditation retreat, and I'm trying to open my heart, but I can tell that I'm closing it a little bit. And I ask Source, I'm like, how do I navigate this? And Source said, stop looking for unconditional love in people who can't give it to you. I'm the only source of unconditional love. And when you look at me for this unconditional love, you'll no longer need it from other people or need people to stay because you are your own source of love. And that was a really powerful moment because, There were so many times in my life where I was asking people who weren't even connected to their own source of love to love me in a way that they couldn't love me. They didn't even love themselves in that way. And so I just want you to remind you that nobody can give you a sense of security and a sense of love and a sense of belonging but yourself. Like those things come within you because you are the source of them. The reason you're able to feel them is because you're the source of them, right? And so relationships just really teach us on how to come home to ourselves. And I just want to frame it that way just so you can have a higher 5D perspective going into it. Another reminder I want to talk about before I get into some stories is reminding you that it doesn't matter how good of a person you are, how worthy you are. There is not one person in this world that has not had a weird friendship dynamic, right? And I think I used to think that if I'm a better person, if I'm more worthy, then people won't leave me. I won't lose friends and nothing will happen. And then I realized it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how worthy you feel. It doesn't matter how much inner work you've done. You are always going to be the hero in some stories and the villain in others, because the truth is that on a soul contract level, you are meant to play those different parts for different people. And sometimes you need to be the villain, and sometimes you need to be the hero, and sometimes you need to be the one that walks away from the friendship, and sometimes you need to be the friend that gets walked away from, because all those different perspectives are here to teach you lessons. And then further than that, all those lessons are helping your soul evolve. The only reason Source really fractalized into zillions of pieces is because it wanted to experience all perspectives. It didn't just want to experience the perspective of being the friend that walked away. It also wanted to experience the perspective of walking away, right? Walking away, the one that's getting walked away from. It wants to experience all perspectives. And the only way we can do that is through relationship with others, because we're all the source, but it needed to fractalize to have all those perspectives. And I know I'm going really high level here, but when you're in pain, I find that the higher perspectives really do help. And collectively, I can feel that there's a lot of endings of relationships, of friendships in general. So I just hope that this gives you some peace. Now, I'm going to share one of my most painful friendship endings just to give you guys a little inside scoop of what I've been through, because you might think, oh yeah, Kristen, you've lost friend here and there. Girlies, I have lost friend groups. I've really been put through it in the friend. And I'm going to share this in a way that I'm going to try to be the most respectful to these people. I don't really ever think that they'll listen to this because we're not connected on anything. But I'm going to just share my perspective. I also just want to, speak to the fact that there's multiple perspectives. They could have a completely different perspective of this, but this is how it played out for me. This was my pain. This is my story. This is my podcast. So I can talk about whatever I want. And I'm going to try to also talk about it in a very non-emotional way, because I don't want to get too into the nitty-gritty, because it was painful. And this is why I've been honestly avoiding this topic, because there was a lot for me to work out. And it was funny, I think I said this on a podcast a couple weeks ago, but Brianna was like, why haven't you done your friendship wound podcast? And I'm like, girl, there's just a lot there. And I told her about this story that I'm about to tell you guys. And she was like, yeah, girl, that's a lot. You need to process that a little bit more. And I thought I had processed it because it was a couple years ago now, but I think that there's layers when you start to talk about something online, because when you talk about it online, it's just different than, telling your friend that is only going to hear about it in real life. So yeah, there was a lot there, but I'm just going to try to say it from a very third party perspective, just state the facts. And I think you guys will feel the essence of why I've had trouble talking about this. So actually, okay, I need to tell two stories. So we're just going to go into the first story. My biggest friendship wound started actually, and this is why inner child work is so important. My biggest friendship wound started in, I think second or third grade. So I met a best friend, and we were best friends. We lived in the same neighborhood. We hung out all the time. And then there was, we were just two peas in a pod. We had the same friend group. I can't believe I had a friend group in third grade, but I did. It was 4 of us. And then another girl came in, and she became best friends with my best friend. And then they kicked me out of the friend group. So I no longer was friends with them. I'm skipping a lot of the story. And this was around 6th grade. So I had been best friends with this girl since 3rd grade, and then they kicked me out of the friend group. in 6th grade. And I was so embarrassed. I was so hurt. I was devastated inside that I actually moved schools for a year. I went to another school and I was just like, I didn't know how to handle it. Like, it was very traumatic for me to not have any friends, or I didn't feel like I had any friends. So I ended up moving schools and going to a different school for 7th grade. Turns out I didn't like that new school. So I ended up going back to the school with the friends. But then I had a new friend group. I made a new friend group for myself, and it was way more aligned and it was fine. Like, I kind of just drifted from those girls, obviously, because I wasn't friends with them. And, I think that we tried to, I can't remember exactly, but I think we tried to be friends, like, back and forth, but I could just never really get past it because they had hurt me so bad. And I was like, I moved schools because of it. I begged my mom to move schools. So that was where my deepest friendship wound has started. And there were so many times where I had kind of replayed this dynamic out in new friendships where, like, I would have a friend and then that friend would turn on me and not want to be my friend anymore all of a sudden. And I kept on replaying this out over and over. And I'm like, what the F? And this is why I love inner child work. I always tell my clients that sometimes if it's a really, really deep, impactful wound, it's not going to just be one time that you're going to have to go do inner child work on it. It's also going to be the amount of intensity that you do, or it's going to be repetition or intensity. So you might have an inner child meditation that's super, super deep. And you might only need to do it like once or twice. But then if it's really deep and that's not enough, then you might have to kind of lean more into repetition where you have to go over it over and over and over again. And unfortunately, I have rewritten this freaking inner child wound, no joke, probably 30 times because it had just kept showing up in my life, like the dynamic of me having this really good friend and then all of a sudden this friend leaving, me having this really good friend and then this friend just deciding that they don't want to be friends anymore. And this is why I love inner child work, because instead of just like being like, oh, like I'm just unworthy, I can actually assign meaning to what's happening in my life and say, okay, I no longer want to be a victim to this dynamic. Let me heal on a deep level. So I have had to heal this wound so much in my adult years. And I want to give you guys the way that I healed this, because I find that when I share you guys how I rewrite the memories in inner child work, it like inspires you guys to go rewrite your own memories, and it gives you ideas for how you could potentially be rewriting yours. So what I had to do is these girls in the memory, I had these girls, because this is how I teach inner child work, is like you go back and you give your inner child what she needed so that she still feels confident at the end of the inner child work. So I went into the meditation and the girls kicked me out of the friend group, but then these other really aligned friends were like, Kristen, just come hang out with us. And I imagined that it was like my friends now, just as little versions. But then we ended up being the cool girls. So I was actually part of the better group now. Like I was actually the one that was chosen. And then those girls, like a couple years later, ended up asking me to be friends with my friends, and they apologized to me. And so I had to rewrite it this way. And it made me feel like, oh, like I didn't do anything wrong. I'm still worthy. I'm still chosen by these friends that are in more alignment with me. And I'm always going to get like more aligned friends on the other side. And so that really helped me heal. And this is kind of how we have to play with inner child work. I had rewritten it some other ways where like they had never been mean to me, but it just like, it didn't really hit. So I had to find a way to help my subconscious mind believe that I'm still worthy of beautiful friendship. So that was like my biggest and first friendship wound. And I do believe that that wound was the reason I've been attracting so many other wounds in my experience. I can say that for the last year, I think I'm clear in attracting. I haven't attracted any friends that have these like toxic endings and stuff. So I'm really proud of all the work that I've done for the last 10 years on this, because I feel like I finally am turning a corner. Now, I am quickly interrupting this episode to remind you guys that if you're a listener, which clearly you are, I have created a free meditation for all of you. This meditation was built out of my rock bottom when I needed to trust the universe and release a lot of anxiety I was feeling, and I didn't know how. know. So I learned how to trust the universe, and I'm going to teach you how in this meditation. It's really practicing this feeling of being held and supported and remembering that you actually are held and supported by the universe in every single moment. All you have to do to get this meditation is to rate and review the podcast on whatever platform you're listening on, and then go ahead and head over to my podcast Instagram at Alignment Academy Podcast, give it a follow, and then message me on there with a screenshot of your rating or review, whatever platform you're listening on, and I will send you the meditation. Okay, now back to the episode. While that was the most painful, my adult years, obviously I had so many new friend groups. I had so many other things that happened, but I think that the most painful thing that I went through is like losing one of the friend groups in my early adulthood. So this was a friend group that, consisted of 4 or 5 of us, and we were really close. We had some school experiences together, and we lived in the same house. It was just, I love those girls. I still love this aspect of them, I still really appreciate those years together, but there's just a little pain now, I guess. And so I think during COVID is when a lot of my friends started maybe shifting, because this is when I really started my business. And when I started my business, I was going through a lot of triggers myself where I think I kind of pulled back on some of my friendships. And also it was COVID. So we couldn't really see people, or we weren't talking to people that much. It was just a weird time. You know what I mean? And during this time, since I was starting to talk about my life online, this is what I think happened. I'm just going to try to share it from their perspective too. I think that they might have heard me talking about shifting friendships or losing people or losing relationships, and thought that I was talking about those girls, which honest to God, I wasn't. I was talking, I had many friend groups at this time. I lived in another city. I also had my school friends. I had my other school friends. I had so many school friends and just friends from different groups, right? And I know that they thought that maybe I said, was talking about losing them online. And I think that they maybe got a little butthurt. And so we kind of drifted as a friend group. I kind of drifted from this whole dynamic. But I stayed close with a few of these girls, because I'm saying I drifted from the friend group. Now, during this time, I did go on a trip with just one of the friends, and there was a point where I was looking at her phone to do something for her, and there was a message up, and I had seen her talk some crap about me and my social media. And I tell you guys this story often, but this is actually where it happened. I was on a trip with my friend, and I opened a message, and I think I was it wasn't I was looking through her phone. I was just on her, I was doing something on her phone, and the message was there. And I had seen my posts getting sent back and forth of them saying what the fuck, or just, I don't remember what they said, but they were talking shit about my post. So that really hurt. And after this trip, other things had happened with this friend that we just kind of had to, I wasn't at the space where I was very consciously communicating. So instead of telling her how hurt I was, I just kind of ended that friendship. And it was a very painful, just kind of abrupt ending. But I was still, again, connected to some of the girls in this group. And there was a point where all the girls were getting together for a little reunion. And I hadn't really been connected with these girls, but they felt the need to, or they invite, I don't know, they invited me. You guys can tell I'm getting choked up, because it's really weird to just replay this in my head, because I haven't thought about it in so long. So they invited me, and I flew across the country to go to this reunion with these girls. And I was really nervous because I hadn't talked to a lot of them in a long time, but I was you know what, this is a chance for me to just show up with love and keep my heart open, and try to rekindle my relationship with these girls. They were very important to me at a time. And I was actually surprised that I was invited to it, because I had drifted from the friend group of the 5 girls. I was only close to maybe 1 or 2 of them. I was only talking to 1 or 2 of them. So, when I got invited, I was does everyone want me there? I'm okay with not going if you guys would just prefer to do it on your own. And they had just said yes, we want you there. of course. So I did go, even though I was really scared. And I also want to just point out, like, I wasn't in their group texts at this time. So I'm only communicating with one of the girls. And so I fly across the country. It's actually very inconvenient. It was very expensive at the time and I wasn't making a lot of money. So I kind of like am, you know, going out of my way to go to this. And I go to it and I will just say that it was very, very awkward. Even though the girls were nice to me, there was obviously still some tension and this like not really wanting to get to know me or my new life. Like they didn't really ask me any questions about my business or my relationship at the time or really my life in general. You know, it was very surface level talk. And so the whole time I had just felt really like awkward and like trying to keep my heart open, but I just like, I also couldn't. It was really uncomfortable for me. But the weekend goes, I try my best. There were moments where I was like crying in the bathroom and stuff because I just felt so awkward and I just felt like I wasn't wanted there. And I'm very sensitive to energy, you know what I mean? So when I feel something, it's typically true. But there were moments I just pushed through and I said, just Kristen, just keep your heart open, just keep on doing it. And it was funny because at the time I didn't really drink and I was like getting drunk because I was just so uncomfortable, which is just a testament because if you know me, you know, like I don't even really like drinking. I drink very, you know, once a month, if that. But I'm just not like a big drinker. So yeah, I just remember that I was that uncomfortable. Anyway, on the last night, one of the girls' boyfriends was sleeping in the room that I was supposed to be sleeping in. So I asked if I could sleep somewhere else and sleep in another room. So I ended up sleeping in another person's room. And there was already like, I think 2 or 3 people in the bed, but we were just going to squeeze because again, I didn't want to sleep with my friend and her boyfriend, another friend and her boyfriend. So I am sleeping, but I couldn't sleep because I was having sleeping issues at the time. And so I was awake, but I was trying to sleep. And the girls had stayed up super late because I think that they had like gone somewhere, gone to the beach or something. And then they came back and I was not sleeping, but one of the girls was basically talking shit about me. Like, why is she here? I just want to sleep with my best friends on the last night. And like, she's in our bed. Like, why is she in our bed? And I was actually awake and I just got up and I think I said like, hey, like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. There was someone in my room and that's why like I didn't sleep in my room. So I ended up going to sleep in the room with my other friend and her boyfriend, friend at the time and her boyfriend. And it was just a really uncomfortable situation where obviously I heard the other girls talking shit about me and talking about how they didn't want me to be there at the trip. And for me, I'm just like, why did you invite me to the trip if you don't want me here? Like, this was not even convenient for me. I was just trying to, you know, come and like be a good friend and like try to like clear the air. And like, this just has gone all wrong. So long story short, it's really just an uncomfortable situation. The next day was the last day. So I kind of just said goodbye to the girls. And the whole time, by the way, this is like an important part of the story. They, were texting in their other group text that I wasn't in instead of the trip group text. And so it was just like, they'd be like, oh, did you hear we're doing this? And I'd be like, no, because like I'm not in that group text. I'm the only person there that's not in that group text. So a lot of really painful things. Long story short, how it ended was I ended up leaving, paying for all the things that I needed to pay for. And I never heard from them again. They never said, hey, it's just not working out as friends, or hey, too much has happened. They just never texted me again. They never said anything. They never reached out. I think I did try to reach out to maybe one of them once. And like, I don't even know if I got a reply back. It's been kind of a while now, like maybe 2 or 3 years. But yeah, so that was really traumatic for me, getting kicked out or just going through that experience in a friend group. So when I tell you guys I've been through the fucking ringer with friendships, I do mean it. That was like the biggest initiation of friendships. And I remember I would have dreams about those friends for months after. I'm talking like 8 months. And friendship breakups are, in my opinion, just as bad as relationship breakups. Like there's no way to describe the pain that you have when someone that used to be so close to you and in your life is just no longer in your life anymore. And so now looking back, I can like look at it as the biggest initiation of just loving myself on such a deep level. And I think that you get by in those moments by knowing that like you have to know your heart and you have to know who you are, and you have to know that even if other people think you're a bad person, or other people are getting your intentions wrong, or other people think that you had different intentions than you did, you have to know, I was just trying to be the best friend I could. I was just trying to do the best I could. I did the best I could at the time, and I know my heart. You can't allow your intentions to be up for debate and things like this, because that's when you can really get triggered and in your head of like, am I a shitty person? Am I unworthy? Am I not a good friend? But if you know you tried your best and you consciously communicated the best you could, and you really just put your heart on the line, then I think that you have to let the rest fall where it was. That was a really painful experience. There was multiple times in this podcast where I'm like, I don't know if I can share this. I don't know if I can share this. But I know that this is going to help someone, and I hope it helps you. So if it does help you, please send me a DM online and let me know if you're going through a friendship breakup, because I would really just love to hear, because I know we're not alone in this. I know that so many people go through really painful endings, and it's okay to talk about the things that we've been through. Now, along with just knowing that you're a good person, I just want to give you guys some tips for moving through a friendship breakup if that's what you're going through. Thank you for also listening to my stories. It feels weirdly freeing and also super fucking scary to share this kind of stuff online, because like this is my biggest wounds. But I'm just going to tell you how I've dealt with them. The first is like to grieve them. They are just like real breakups, and grief doesn't have a timeline. Like there was a point, I think around the 6-month mark, where I was like, am I ever going to get over these friendships? Like, am I ever going to not feel pain about not being friends with these girls and feeling triggered when I think about them? And 2.5 years later, I think this was like in 2022 or maybe even earlier, I can honestly say that doesn't bother me anymore. I wish those friends love. I respect what we had at the time, but it is just really clear to me that we're not really meant to be friends at this point. Like we don't have a lot in common. And, they probably think that I don't even know what they think about me. I'm not going to put words in their mouth, but they probably don't feel a connection to me, just like I don't feel a connection to them anymore. And it's okay. Like, I'm like, wow, like it's okay that we grew apart. Nothing's wrong with them. They're not bad people. Nothing's wrong with me. I'm not a bad person. I'm going left, they're going right. And that's how it goes. Right. And so I think just grieving the friendship and allowing your heart to feel what it needs to feel. Like I needed to feel grief. I needed to feel the hurt. I needed to feel the betrayal for a long time. And I felt it. And there's just no way around feeling it. And then I think there's a moment where you have to just be like, I'm done feeling this. Like, feel your feelings, but when are you done? Decide when you're done, and decide that you deserve to feel happy and call in aligned friendships again. The second thing is doing tons of inner child work around the root of the wound, right? When this came up, I had to go back into that first wound that I was telling you about with the 2 girl best friends that like decided they didn't want to be my friend. And I want to just point out the similar dynamic here, right? They want to be my friend 1 minute, and then another minute I'm kicked out of the friend group. Isn't it funny how that happened in 2 places? Actually like 3 or 4, because I've had that dynamic play out even more over time. And it's not funny, because when our subconscious makes rules, my rule was, oh, people love me and then they don't. And then I just kept on playing out that dynamic of people love me and then they don't. And so I was doing a ton of inner child work. If you're new to inner child work, just get my inner child meditation on the link below. I teach you how to find the root of the memories in the email before, and then you go down and you rewrite it just like I explained in the beginning of the episode. And I was rewriting that memory multiple times. I was going through other friendship wounds, giving myself what I needed, and realizing that I was the only one that could heal this wound and remember my worthiness in those moments. So I don't know how you would heal this other than doing inner child work. Like I know I preach this every day, guys, but like inner work is the way to heal. You have to be willing to sit down and do the inner work. And, sometimes I think people look at my life and they're like, wow, she's so lucky. She's on these trips. She makes money, blah, 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 blah. I wish you guys could see the amount of inner work I do behind the scenes, because for me, I'm like, there's no wonder I'm where I'm at. I work on myself every day for hours. I'm sitting in these meditations these days for 2 hours, guys. I commit to my inner work that heavily. So My inner child meditation is no more than 20 minutes. And I'm saying, like, if you can't find 20 minutes to work on your subconscious and heal, then like you need to just, but you want to heal. I'm not saying it's bad if you don't want to heal, but if you want to heal, you have to redo your priorities, because if it's important to you to live a fulfilling life and heal yourself and live your most evolved soul path, then make the time for it. I don't have time to meditate for 2 hours, but it's important to me and it makes me feel so good. So I do it, you know? The other thing is, number 3 is finding friends that align with your values and being diligent about not settling for less. You know, there was many years after that where I felt like I didn't have friends. I couldn't find people that were choosing me. And I think that part of the loneliness on the spiritual journey is a little bit of an initiation, if I'm being honest. Like, you have to get to a place where you're so okay being alone. And I've shared this many times about friendships. Like, the moment I was truly okay being alone was when all my soul friends came in and I met my best friend in the entire world, Bree. Like, it was just so, there were so many moments where I, you know, was like, even though I'm lonely and I would like to have plans tonight, I don't binge drink anymore. So I can't go out. I'm not going to turn and self-abandon my values in order to feel connection. I'm just going to find the connection within myself. And so if you're on the journey of rebuilding your friendships, like, I think that this is the third point, is like, one, you have to rebuild friendships that are in alignment with your values, and don't settle for friends that are not in alignment with your values. Like, get clear on what kind of friends you want. What do you want to be doing with those friends? Like, I wanted to go on walks with my friends, go to yoga class, work out, go to spiritual stuff with my friends. And now I attract those types of friends where I do that with them. And it's just beautiful, because it just is. And then if a friend is wanting to do things that are outside of that scope every weekend, right? If you want to do that and I'm not there, like, of course, go do it. It's not, we can still be friends, but if that's the only thing that our friendship is built upon, it's just not in resonant anymore. And I think that in the beginning, you do kind of get like tests from the universe. The universe is like, are you going to settle for the type of friends that you had last time? Or are you really going to call in some new aligned friendships? And so for me, for a long time, I did have to call in the aligned friendships that were not centered around things like drinking or partying or doing things that I just no longer have an interest in. And like I said, there's no like shame for drinking and partying. Like, I drink sometimes. I'm just saying, like, my friendships don't need to be built around that. So finding friends that are in alignment with your value is the third tip to heal with friendship breakups. My fourth tip is look at through the eyes of your higher self. Like, I think we've been talking about the higher perspective in this episode a lot, and you have to continue to look at the higher perspective that this is teaching you something. It's teaching you self-security. It's teaching you how to be your own friend. It's teaching you how to love yourself deeper, and be willing to learn the lessons that it's there to teach you. Be willing to do the healing work that you need to do to fully heal that wound. And it's just going to be beautiful when you do. I said this before, but my fifth tip is remembering it doesn't mean anything about you, and decide that who you are is not up for debate. You know, I use this in so much, like in my business and in my friendships. If people want to misjudge my intentions, or think I'm a bad person, or think I'm a bad coach, or think I'm a bad friend, like, I need to allow them to have their opinion, because what you think about me is, quite frankly, none of my fucking business. It's just not. It's not any of my business, and it's also not your business what other people think about you. Your business is what you think about you. And isn't it funny that when we think kind things about ourselves, we project that other people are thinking kind things about us? But when we think shitty thoughts about us, when we think mean thoughts about us, we project on other people that they're thinking mean thoughts about us. When I realized it was a game changer. And I'm like, I'm just going to think nice thoughts about myself and assume that everyone else is thinking nice thoughts about me. And then you attract that reflection. And so, I don't know, guys. I think it's just crazy that projection in general is crazy, but we really have to have the sense of worthiness and security that we know our heart. We are a good friend. We are a good person. We are doing the best we can. And however the cookie crumbles after that, it is up to surrender, and it's up to God. And we just have to kind of like give that and know that everything else will be perfect. My sixth and final tip for getting over friendship breakup is protecting your mental energy. You know, I had a big problem with this for a long time. I like kept them as friends on my social media. I kept them, on Facebook and all these things. And then I met with one of my spiritual mentors that was like, Kristen, you have so many cords to these friends. They are getting into your business. You need to remove these people. Your business is sacred. Nothing should penetrate this. And I was like, oh my God, I'm letting like the fear of looking mean stop me from living my highest timeline in my business. And it was in that moment I gave myself permission to remove them as followers, block who I needed to block, just get them out of my auric field, because the truth is it's not normal to stay attached energetically to people that are not in your life anymore. And so if there are people on your social media, I know that I can feel that there's a lot of you that need to hear this message. If there are people on your social media that are, when you're scrolling on your feed, that you're no longer connected with, but are making you sad about your life when you look at their content, remove them. Just remove them, mute them, remove them, block them. You don't need to see their stuff. And I had this moment the other day when I was studying the quantum field, LOL, that if you take your attention off of something long enough, it literally doesn't exist for you. I want you to really hear that, guys. Think about somebody you haven't thought about from your grade school. Think about a random person from your grade school that you haven't thought about in years. I'm sure you have someone in your head right now. You haven't thought about them, so they don't exist for you. That can happen for other people, but social media makes that so fucking hard because we're so attached and connected to everyone right now. So remove the people you need to remove, clean up your social media, and help yourself heal. Don't make it harder for yourself to heal, right? You're just making it harder for yourself when you do that. So just be kind to yourself in that way. And I think my 7th and final tip is just give yourself grace through this process. There's no right way to deal with a breakup of any sort, but especially a friendship breakup. It's so hard. It's so difficult. It hurts so much. I know it does. And I'm sending you so much love as you navigate this friendship ending. Know that the pain will not last forever, and it is only making you stronger. And Source was really teaching me that, you have to get to a place where you have nothing to lose. I feel like I'm at that place now in my life where I am like, I have nothing to lose. I am not scared of losing people anymore, almost to a fault. I'm like, you can come in my life and you can go and I will be okay. And I think that that's what losing people teaches us, that we'll always be okay. And that is a really fucking strong vibration to hold. The vibration that we will always be okay. We will always be okay because we have ourselves. And when you feel like you'll be okay, now you're coming from a place of wholeness into a friendship versus a place of you need to choose me because my life depends on it. Because people can fucking feel that, and nobody wants to be friends with somebody who needs you to choose them, right? You want to be friends with someone who you want to choose and they want to choose you, just because you both are whole beings, and it's a beautiful friendship when you can come from a place of wholeness. So I'm going to leave it there. It's a vibrational thing. It makes you so strong. When you're not scared to lose anyone, you're so fucking magnetic, guys. Let's become magnetic, because you will get through whatever you need to get through. So I'm going to leave it there. I also want to remind you guys that Cosmic CEO, my retreat in May 17th through 24th, has a few spaces available, and I want you to come. I know there's a few of you that are listening to this that are like, I want spiritual friends, and you haven't taken any action. Girl, come to my retreat. I'm talking to you. You're going to meet your best friends. I met my best friends on retreats, and you're going to be with like-minded people that are on the same path, that are into entrepreneurship and healing and spirituality, and it's just going to be such a good time. Just DM me Cosmic on Instagram if you want more info, and we'll hop on a quick call, see if you're a good fit, and then I'll give you all the information on how to sign up. Cosmic CEO is going to be a blend of healing, business, entrepreneurship, all that good stuff. I'm literally so excited for this retreat. It's going to be next level. The women that are coming are I'm going to be friends with them. You know what I mean? I feel so good about it. So I'm just over the moon with this next era. And this is how you make your life exciting too. I wasn't going to the Dispenza Retreat last week, and then I decided last minute, and I'm like, this is so exciting. This is living in the unknown. This is how I create a beautiful life. And this can be you. In a month, we could be sitting under the stars together in Costa Rica. just talking about aliens and healing and business together. So I want you to come be my best friend. DM me Cosmic for more info. And I really just love you guys so much. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Thank you for trusting me and listening to me for however long, an hour today. I hope that your heart is full of love. I'm sending you wholeness. I'm sending you so much healing energy for whatever you're going through. And I hope that we get to connect in real life or online soon. I love you guys, and I will see you next week. Bye.